Hi everyone, welcome to the Witching Week. Today is episode number 79. Today we're going to be talking about witch trials. We're going to be looking at a film called Witch, not to be confused with The Witch, and we're looking at one of the things that I have been watching recently. So grab a cup of tea, put some incense on, get comfy, and we'll explore the Witching Week. Hi everybody, welcome back. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, every Friday we get together for a cup of tea and a bit of a chinwag. We look at some of the things that have happened in the previous week, some of the events to come in the next week, and just general things that catch my eye as I move on through my witching week. So welcome back if you are a regular watcher. So today I am drinking some of this peach tea from Lidl. Not very glamorous, looks a bit like fish food. I started this a while ago, as you guys know. At this stage I'm just desperate to get rid of it, so it's all right. It's not like one of the nice Wittard instant teas, which I've been told there is a watermelon version, so I'm going to be checking that out soon. And I am burning some Zamzam angel style incense. So this smells like the perfume angels. So if you like that, you need to give Zamzam a whirl, and they're really long as well. So yeah, these are a favourite here on this show. So how are you all doing? How has your week been? It's Friday, it's grey and murky out there, cloudy, it's cold. I've got 3 layers on, as you can see. It's been really cold, and yeah, I'm absolutely exhausted. So last night I went out to my monthly moot. We went to our friend Paul's house. Thank you, Paul, for hosting us if you're watching. It was heavy rain, so this would have been our Summer Solstice moot, and I went out with 4 tops on, a long skirt, some leggings underneath, 2 pairs of socks. It's absolutely ridiculous. We had a lovely time though, thank you. Paul introduced us to this little bit of magic. I've sort of seen this before, variations of this, but I think this is absolutely brilliant, which someone at Northants Pagans introduced him to. So we had a bit of fun last night, but this is a toilet roll with some marker pens. And you can call this, a variation of I'm not dealing with this shit. Basically, you write something that you want to be rid of on the toilet paper, and then you either flush it away or, in our case, we burned it last night. Paul had a fire going outside. You could take it a step further and actually wipe yourself on it and then flush it away, but I thought I'd just share this with you because it's a little bit of fun, and yeah, it's a very good sort of introduction, I think, into magical acts, because it shows you how things are supposed to be symbolic. So we've been talking about magic all week, all month over on Patreon, but yeah, I thought this was a really fun little activity, which actually is quite magical when you think about it. So I did a reading last night at the Moot, and I thought I would share it with you. We've got Fairy Month over on Patreon next month, so I've been immersing myself in all sorts of fairy books and articles, and I'm just putting together the month now as we speak. So if we're thinking of fairies, then for me, my mind immediately goes to William Shakespeare and A Midsummer Night's Dream. I can never say that. Anyway, I thought I would read this, and it is worth noting that the word thorough in this poem would actually be through in modern parlance. So keep that in mind while I'm reading this out to you. Over hill, over dale, thorough bush, thorough briar, over park, over pale, thorough flood, thorough fire. I do wander everywhere, swifter than the moon's sphere, and I serve the fairy queen, to dew her orbs upon the green. The cowslips tall her pensioners be, in their gold coats spots you see. Those be rubies, fairy favours, in those freckles live their savours. I must go seek some dewdrops here, and hang a pearl in every cowslip's ear. Farewell, thou lob of spirits, I'll be gone. Our queen and all her elves come here anon. So I thought that was really nice and just ties in with the time of year as we are coming up for Midsummer. So yeah, Midsummer, lots and lots of rain. It's been really, really awful. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But one thing I have been trying to get little snippets of here and there, half an hour, is Bridgerton. So we've moved from the Elizabethan era to the Regency sort of period of the Georgian era now. And I have officially turned into a middle-aged woman seeking my romance and my thrills from a TV programme. So yeah, I'm loving it. It is a period drama. If you're not in the UK and you're not aware of Bridgerton, I don't know if you will have it on Netflix elsewhere, but it's certainly on Netflix in the UK. And it is a period drama, but there is a huge amount of poetic license that's been used sort of on it. So for example, the music. So when the characters, they go to a party or some sort of evening, quite often the orchestra or the string quartet or, you know, the musicians that are there, they'll play modern music. So I've spotted Billie Eilish. I don't know, I'm not into pop music, so a lot of it I wouldn't recognise, and some of it I'm sure is just sort of regular classical, but on the whole it's things like Billie Eilish. I've spotted Nirvana, which did really, really amuse me, and the costumes as well. I'm not certain that some of the costumes would have been worn. There's one group of people in particular called the Featheringtons, I think they're called, and they have very garish, sort of outlandish costumes, some really, really bright colours. I mean, maybe they would, I don't know. The Regency era was quite fantastic, but yeah, I'm not sure. I think the main character in the programme is probably, you know, in her pale sort of blues and creams and whites and stuff like that. I think she's probably more representative of the time. But anyway, it's an absolutely fantastic programme. Some amazing scenery and settings. So, you know, when they have their big balls and stuff, in some incredible buildings, some lovely sort of conservatory type buildings that are all decked out with plants. It's total fantasy in places as well, some of it, and some of the things that happen and some of the reactions, you know, like getting caught in the rain. It's all very romantic. It's very amusing and entertaining, and it's been a massive distraction from the rain. So that has been really lovely. I'm really, really enjoying it. Let me know if you watch Bridgerton as well, and whether it's keeping you going at the moment. I know I'm a bit late to the party. I know people have been watching it. It's probably been out a couple of years now, but yeah, I've just started to watch it, and yeah, it's a nice distraction from everything being so damp and dark at the moment. It's really not much fun. What's it like where you are? Is the weather okay? I believe that in the last 12 months, only 3 of the months have been colder than average temperatures, but here in June, and definitely in like the last 4 weeks, we've had, apart from that one day where we went to Rutland Agricultural Show I spoke about last week, it's been so dark and damp and wet, and it's been cold. Like, we've had 5 to 6 degrees at night. Apparently the jet stream it's sort of sitting lower than it usually would be, so it's further south, and what that is doing is it's bringing in winds from the Arctic. I mean, I'm definitely feeling it. We've got to that point in the year where we can't put the heating on because of the cost. You know, it's one thing having it on for a few hours each day in the winter, and that costs a bomb, but to have it running in the summer as well is just no go. So we've been absolutely freezing, and we've had to sort of go out to warm up at times, go to other places, go to cafes and stuff like that. It's mad. So apparently it is going to get warmer, because, you know, global warming is a thing, and overall it's been much, much warmer than, you know, it would be. So it is going to get warmer apparently. It is looking like it's going to be a bit warmer next week, but who can tell really, to be honest, who can tell? So let me know where you are and what the weather is like. I know that there's some of you in Canada, there's obviously some of you guys are in the United States and you're enjoying some lovely weather. I've seen some photos. And if you're in the UK, if you're not in my part of the East Midlands, what is the weather like where you are? Is it awful? Is it just my little section, or is it awful everywhere? I think it's awful everywhere. I just see people moaning about the weather online. But yeah, it should get better next week. So I stumbled across an article in The Guardian about a film that came out this year called Witch. So not to be confused with The Witch, which has been around for a while. I can't remember who the director was of that one. It might be Robert Egger, maybe. But anyway, The Guardian have described this film as an occultist gothic horror. And the review I found only gave it 3 out of 5 stars, so I don't necessarily think it's a film that we all need to rush and watch. They've described it as an atmospheric but orthodox British horror. I'm not a huge horror fan these days. I like horrors if they are intelligent and they're very well thought out. So I really enjoyed Midsummer. I've seen that probably 3 or 4 times, and each time I spot something new, something that's really clever, something that's like perhaps really symbolic, that fits in with paganism, stuff like that. I don't enjoy horrors just for the sake of, you know, like being scared or watching something distressing. I find a lot of things in horror, I find a lot of horrors just to be just completely unnecessary, if I'm honest. But if it's a clever one and it's cleverly thought out, then I'm up for it. They do say that the film takes a swerve after about 45 minutes, so I don't know what that is. I don't know whether that's like a clever twist or whether it starts off really well and gets bad, or the other way around, but it's intriguing me. So it's set in 1575 in the town of Dornbrook, and it's about witchcraft accusations. So I'm interested to watch it and to see whether it's well done, whether, you know, whether it's nonsense, or whether it does a really horrible part of our history justice. I would be really interested to know. So if you've seen this, let me know in the comments, what did you think? Is it worth me watching? I mean, at 3 stars, it's a bit rubbish, isn't it? It's only just kind of like over halfway, if you like, to sort of being scored. So yeah, apparently it's on UK digital platforms. So I've not seen anything on Netflix about it or Amazon Prime. I don't know if it's on those or whether it's on something that's a bit more obscure and less mainstream, but I intend to have a look. It's been available since the 29th of April, apparently. So it's a brand new film, hasn't been out long, and yeah, I'd be interested to know. So I got wondering, while I was reading this review about this film, I had a thought, because I was thinking about Scottish witches and the number of Scottish witches that were persecuted, and thinking about obviously the pardons that they have been trying to bring about for those witches and all the work that's been done around that. And it got me thinking about Welsh witches, so I had to have a little bit of a Google. But it occurred to me that there didn't seem to be very much in the way of accusations and persecutions in Wales, at least as far as I was aware. So I had a little look online, and I did find an article on the BBC News website. And apparently, according to Phil Carradis, who is a historian who's done a lot of work into this sort of subject, apparently it was the Welsh language that really stopped people from being accused and persecuted. Very few judges and examiners spoke the Welsh language. So yeah, Welsh witches. I mean, it wasn't even witches, was it? It was mainly people that were accused of being witches, everyday people, and mainly women, but that did include men and children. And yeah, it was the Welsh language. And also, because Wales had such small communities who were very reliant on their village wise woman, it would generally be a wise woman. They simply did not have, they weren't privy to the same sort of accusations. Welsh communities needed their wise women. They didn't have hospitals, they didn't necessarily have a midwife. They had a group of herbalists as well that were quite sort of big, I believe, and well known. The sort of wise traditions and practices were very important to the Welsh people. So those two things together meant that there were very few people accused of witchcraft and were killed for witchcraft in Wales. So I thought that was really, really interesting. And it just still really, really gets to me that between 1450 and 1700, approximately 35,000 people in Europe were killed for being witches. And Paul Garrity said that mainly it was misogyny and greed that were at the heart of this, because it was a really, really easy way to take someone's house, take their land, take their property. I'm thinking especially if you're a widow, you'd lost your husband, you're a lone woman, perhaps your children are grown, and you had this property and you had this land because you were, part of a partnership. It would be really, really easy to take that off you, and all someone had to do was say, you're a witch. So very, very sad, very sad. It was actually Henry VIII that first defined witchcraft as a crime that should be punishable by death. That was in 1542. And then, of course, after Henry VIII, we had James VI of Scotland, who later became James I of England. And we all know him, don't we, for his book Demonology. And he was a notorious witch hunter. He was really big on rooting out witches, punishing them, killing them. And I think he was responsible for spreading a lot of fear, wasn't he? It must have been a very scary time then. If you think people didn't understand really where illness came from, they would be concerned about evil spirits, they would be concerned about witches, they would be concerned about these things from the point of view of their livelihood as well. If you were a dairy farmer, you would be concerned about witches coming in at night and turning your milk and ruining your products that you had to sell to stay alive. It was a very, very difficult and worrying time. In 1727, Janet Horne was the last woman to be executed for being a witch, and that happened in Scotland. And then in 1736, an act was passed repealing the laws against witchcraft, and instead of death, fines or imprisonment were handed out instead. So, I mean, still not brilliant, but at that point, judges and people that worked in law and order, they started to realise that, people were being accused of things that they didn't do, and so a lot more common sense was sort of introduced, and obviously people were aware that people made these accusations so that they could take land and property. Then in 1951, that act was repealed. So we went from 1736 to 1951, and that act became the Fraudulent Mediums Act. So 1951, not that long ago really, and then that act was repealed only in 2008. So not long ago at all, the year after my daughter was born. But it's still happening in the rest of the world. In India, between 2010 and 2021, there were like 1,500 people that were killed because of this belief in witchcraft, and people are still being persecuted in Ghana. So they are fleeing their homes, they're being banished from their villages and their communities, and that is still going on to this day in India and Ghana, and that's probably just two places out of many. So we're so lucky here in Britain to be able to believe in what we want and be who we want to be. I think in these countries, obviously there is still almost like a belief in witchcraft, in that we can sort of do things that were actually not possible to do as witches. Obviously, magic, it has to work with natural laws. not against it, but it's very, very sad that women, especially today in 2024, are being persecuted in this manner. So yeah, very sad, very sad. I'm glad to hear that people in Wales managed to avoid what was happening massively in Scotland, happening here in England, America, all across the world basically. So on to some happier things now. I spoke about obviously the plans for Summer Solstice for Stonehenge. Look those up on the English Heritage website. They do have a pre-booking system this year, so go take a look at that. If you want a little bit more in terms of detail, me talking about that, go to last week's episode of the Witching Week. I thought I would just give you the information for Avebury. Now again, a little bit of organisation is needed to get to Avebury. It's a very small village with small village sort of on the edge of it as well, West Kennet, and there is no parking. There's parking restrictions. There's very few places to park, even on a regular weekend, without it being, you know, the massive festival of the Summer Solstice. So your best bet is to get into Avebury via public transport. There's a bus that stops outside the Red Lion pub. I know there are buses that come from Bristol, but I'm sure there's other services from the area, you know, like Marlborough and stuff like that. So that is your best bet. That's as much information as I can give you on that. You know, I don't live in Avebury. I'm a visitor myself. But you'll be able to find out that information if you have a good dig about online. But I just wanted to give you the information for the ceremonies. My friend Henk, the Druid, the Archdruid, he'll be hosting those alongside Gary, Keeper of the Stones. So on the 20th of June, the day of the Summer Solstice, there will be the sunset ceremony at 21:22 with the King's Drummers following at 21:51. So after the ceremony begins basically. And then we have the sunrise ceremony the next morning at 4:43. So if you go to Avebury and you have the night there, you have the sunset ceremony and then the sunrise ceremony, you're probably not going to get much sleep. And there is not much time between 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning really. And there's drumming all night. There's people, chatting, enjoying themselves, merrymaking, and then the sunrise the next morning. So you are going to be tired. I can't really pull these all-nighters anymore. It's so difficult. It's so difficult with my ME. I just end up feeling like a zombie and just feeling like I'm gonna die. So I won't be doing it this year. Then on the 22nd of June, we have the sunrise ceremony at 4:43, so same time. So that's on the morning of the 21st and the morning of the 22nd. Then they have, because it's Saturday, they have the Lady Circle at 1300 hours on the 22nd, and they have the free and open Gorsid on the 22nd as well on the Saturday at 13:30. So this is an open rite that anybody can take part in. It will be the Summer Solstice rite, the Summer Solstice free and open Gorsid. So if you fancy getting involved and you can get to Avebury and you can, get yourself there, because the parking, I'm sure, will be taken up by the people that are camping, because you can actually camp over some of the Sabbats, so Summer Solstice being the main one. But if you can get there via bus or taxi or some other way, then there is the Ladies' Circle at 1 and the free and open Gorsid at 1:30 on the Saturday. Then again on the 23rd, there is the sunrise ceremony at the same time, 4:43. At the point of solstice, solstice coming from the Latin solstitium, which means sun stands still. The length of the day actually stands still. It doesn't get longer, it doesn't get shorter for a few days, and it's the same at the winter solstice, as we know. And then when the day starts to get a minute longer, then we say that the sun is born. So it's the same at the summer solstice. So the morning of the 21st, the 22nd, the 23rd, sunrise ceremony at 4:43, and then on the 24th of June, which happens to be Midsummer Day in Old English dates, it's St John the Baptist's Day, So on that day, we will lose a minute. So the sunrise ceremony on that morning will be 4:44. So if you, I don't know how long the camping is going for. I don't know if it's just sort of 2 or 3 days there at Avebury, but I should imagine that will be taken fairly quickly, probably from, well, the minute they set it up. So I don't know if that will be like the 19th or the 20th, but yeah, it's very, very difficult to get into Avebury, very difficult. So that is the plan for Avebury and Stonehenge. There will obviously be lots of other events going on around the UK at various stone circles and things like that. I'm sure you could probably turn up at one, no matter how remote, and you're bound to bump into some other witches, druids and pagans. So that's actually happening this week. Today is the 14th. This episode's running until the 21st. So yeah, that happens within this week. So I'm wishing you all a lovely summer solstice. We're going to move on to some cards now. I thought this video was going to be a lot longer today, actually. I wrote all my notes out and all the things that I wanted to talk about. I think we're only just about running into 25 minutes. So let's do some cards. My brain is absolutely scrambled today, as it often is at the end of the week, but bizarrely, my words are coming out better today than they normally do. Tell me what you've been up to. How has your week been? Okay, so I've got 3 cards that I've picked today. And I'm doing a little section on birthday magic next month over on Patreon because it's my birthday. And I'll talk about birthday magic, talk about some of the birthday magic that you can do, some of the things that are relevant to a birthday. I'm going to be looking at some magical tools for birthday magic and stuff like that. And I feel like these cards nod to birthday magic a little bit, and basically about the celebration of you as a person. So I have picked the 6 of Wands, the Hanged Man and the Moon, and I'm asking you to have a little bit of a different perspective on yourself. If you feel bad about yourself, your self-esteem is low, you don't feel particularly good about yourself, I want you to look at yourself in terms of magic, and that is that you are so magical. You are the magical ingredient in your own spells, in your own life and in your world. And I really think it's important that we take time to celebrate ourselves, even if it's once a year, even if it's not very often. Sometimes I think we need to shout from the rooftops that, you know, we're amazing, we're great, we're brilliant. That doesn't have to be a public shouting from the rooftops, although that doesn't hurt either. It can just be to yourself, you know, that acknowledgement that you are brilliant, you are wonderful. And even the parts of us that are hidden, that are, you know, perhaps we don't like or we hide from the world, that don't necessarily have a light shone on very often, you know, those little character traits and personality traits that make us who we are and actually make us really brilliant as people, that we might not feel are worth shouting about. So for example, I feel I'm really, really determined, and I think that is a really great thing. I also feel that personally I'm quite grounded and down to earth and approachable, and whilst that might not sort of feel in this society as important as maybe earning lots of money or acts of service to other people, I think in its own way it is useful to other people, and it does make me special, and it does mean that I have something to give this world. And I want you guys to adopt this way of thinking. I want you to approach definitely the next week, the next witching week, and definitely the year ahead if you can. I want you to approach this, you know, there are bits about you, good and bad, that make you a human being. Life is all about balance. Witchcraft is all about balance, and it's really important to brace these two halves of yourself, good or bad. You know, it makes who you are as a person, and that makes you wonderful, and that makes you the magical ingredient in everything you do. So it's time to take a bit of a different perspective. You know, if magic is a thing and we can work magic and we can change things and we can affect change using magic, and we do that magic ourselves, then surely that makes us magic. So I really, really would like you to adopt If you haven't been feeling that great about yourself and you're not feeling that positive about yourself, I want you to adopt this different way of thinking, this different perspective. We will be talking about this in bigger detail next month when we do fairies and we do birthday magic. But yeah, I smiled when these cards came up, and that's how I have interpreted them. So yeah, it's time to shout out a little bit. It's time to celebrate your victories and celebrate the things about you that make you really special. And if that does mean shouting to the world and being a bit public with that, it doesn't matter. From time to time, it's okay to sort of blow our own trumpet. It's good to do that from time to time. So that's us done for today and for the week ahead. Let's hope that the weather really, really improves. It's going to take a lot of improvement here. I can see a tiny bit of blue poking through some clouds at the moment, but the cloud there is just so heavy and it looks so laden with rain. So yeah, what have we got coming up this week? Well, we've got Father's Day coming up actually, haven't we? I've just thought about that. So yeah, if you are celebrating Father's Day in any way, enjoy that. Enjoy the summer solstice and be careful, enjoy, make merry, live in the moment. That's what Litha is all about, really, counting our blessings, and living in the moment and really enjoying it. And yeah, we're about to go through the doorway of oak into the darker half of the year now. Obviously it's a slow and steady decline, but yeah, after next week we'll be moving through into a period where we're focused much more on the inner parts of us. So even more of a reason to have an outward celebration of the inner and the outer parts of your expression. So I'm wishing you a lovely week. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I will be back next week. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I've been here a while without any breaks, but yeah, I'll be back next week for another episode of the Witching Week. Okay, lots of love and blessings. Bye.